Welcome to another of our personal empowerment audio programs, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our topic today, well, we just couldn't put this off any longer. We're going to do a program on procrastination. You know, I've been thinking that if mindfulness is living in the now, then procrastination is living in the not now, I'll do it later.
I'll do it later. Honest, honey, I'll do it later. We're going to talk about procrastination because it's a curiosity, the way we try to find power in putting things off. One thing I can't put off any longer, I need to mention to a few of you, not sure who you are, but if you by any chance lose your audio feed of this program in the next few weeks, it's simply because we upgraded about 6 or 8 months ago, and now we're going to complete that phase. So it's so easy. You're not going to lose any of your programs. All you need to do is get a new password. So if for any reason from your end you just lose your feed in the next few weeks, just go to focuspassion.com and request a new password. And next time you log in, you'll be automatically resubscribed. All your programs will be in the player, and you can listen to them there on the site or resubscribe to your iPod system or RSS reader, whatever you want to do. You have all those different options available. And a reminder also, use that share one with a friend button right below the built-in player, because folks really need this information, like procrastination. We're going to talk not only about the curiosity of how we find some kind of phony power in putting things off, but what to do about it, how to truly empower yourself, get a little more organized. And for me, Steve, I think one of the best parts is just better understanding why we do the things we do, what makes us tick, what motivates us, Why would I care about putting something off, something that's important that I do care about, but I want to do it later?
You know, really, there's two kinds of things we procrastinate, it seems to me. We procrastinate things we don't want to do, because we don't want to do them. But we also procrastinate those things we really want to do the most sometimes, like write the great American novel or, change careers or finally make up with that person. The things we really long to do the most because they're so big, so giant, so overwhelming, we procrastinate those things too. So I think we procrastinate for different kinds of reasons. Certainly fear has a role to play, and the fact of being confused and overwhelmed has a role to play. But bottom line, procrastination comes with some wonderful side effects for some people, some secondary gains, some real benefits they get by being able to put off for tomorrow what they don't want to do today.
That's part of the fun psychology and the curiosity of all of this, is that there is a payoff, even though it's rarely worth it. I mean, this is something we need to do. It's hard for us to find an example in your life, so we'll talk about some of the common things that we tend to do, because we're always creating priorities, aren't we? I mean, one of the aspects of procrastination I think we can look at here at the top is not only the payoff, but the way in which we can use deliberate disorganization to make a task seem overwhelming. Like, it's even part of an appeal for sympathy. I think that's where the phony payoff is I'll get some sympathy, and I really want love, but I'll settle for sympathy. If I say to you, well, I have so much to do, how will I ever get it done? I've got to do this, and then I've got to do this, and then I've got to do that. What'll I ever do?
And then, of course, that's a great excuse for why it didn't turn out that great, because I just had so much to do, and I couldn't possibly do it all at the same time. So, we procrastinate because things seem overwhelming, because they seem like one big giant thing to do, which we just, can't seem to do. Like, how do I eat this huge giant steak that's on my plate? Well, you eat that giant steak by cutting off a little piece of it and eating it one bite at a time. So that which is overwhelming is only overwhelming because you've seen it as one thing instead of seeing it as a series of baby steps, a series of a million things. I don't think that's the main reason people procrastinate, but it is one of the reasons.
When I think of procrastination, Steve, the first thing that occurs to me, and maybe this says more about me than the general population, is its relationship to perfectionism. And if I can't do it perfectly, right, and that may not be perfectly for me, that might be perfectly for this imaginary parent-type person out into the world, them or they, it will never be good enough for them. So why even bother? Why I could procrastinate by getting almost to the end and not finishing. I see a lot of that in my clients' lives. They'll say there is that type of procrastination where I get almost to the end and then I don't finish it because it's not going to be perfect enough. Or those people, similar motivation, but they won't even get started. Why even bother with this thing? Why even start?
Yeah, and then there's the people who find a way to use procrastination successfully in their lives. I mean, because it does create some adrenaline. You know, if you wait till the last minute, for example, when I was in college, I had tests on Friday. If I tried to study Monday night, my mind wandered off. I wasn't really that motivated. If I waited till Thursday night, the night before the test, all of a sudden I was very motivated. What I finally discovered, because studying Thursday night for a Friday test isn't really a good idea, it doesn't give your mind enough time to like let it absorb in and spend a day like feeling like you've known it for a while kind of thing. So what I did was I sort of convinced myself, I pretended the test was really Thursday and I studied Wednesday night really strong, and then I had all day Thursday to just lounge around and feel like I got it covered. I don't even have to pick up a book today because I'm ready. So sometimes procrastination can be used in a valuable way. But most people procrastinate either the big things because the fear of, the disappointment that they won't get it or it won't be good enough, the perfectionism. But then we put off the little things, like the icky things that we don't want to do. We procrastinate those, unfortunately, often until they build up to be one big thing that we have to do. And that's the problem. Sometimes washing a dish here and washing a dish there is a lot easier than having to wash a whole sink full of dishes.
Well, I think in most any event, Steve, self-esteem or the lack of self-esteem, low self-esteem, a feeling of inadequacy is at the root of this. I mean, what's perfectionism except this feeling that other people had to push you to be perfect because essentially you're just not that good? I mean, I think at the foundation, if we're looking for some, common false assumption to build procrastination upon, it's a search for power in our powerlessness. And it is a vicious cycle because, like you say, if you never finish anything, then you don't ever have any free time. You don't ever get a chance to relax and enjoy, what's the word I want? Luxuriate in the feeling of accomplishment, It's a great feeling to feel like, wow, I really completed that task. In school, an academic situation, it might be a little different. You have to wait to get a grade or to see what your test score was. But in real world, in the life, of course, you can find a sense of accomplishment in the littlest tasks, which we'll talk about more in a few minutes when we get to the coping skills, because doing little pieces, breaking it down into bite-sized chunks is part of the effective coping strategy that we'll reveal and talk about. But yeah, you and I were discussing before the program whether to include being tardy or often late as a pattern in this. And I think we decided pretty much not to, though I just did, didn't I?
Sets up another show, though.
It does, and it needs to be another show. But what they have in common is this idea of, I won't say poor self-esteem, how about undeveloped self-esteem?
Better said. Let's take a look at the hypothetical person who never procrastinates. There's not even a word for that. There's not even a word for somebody who doesn't procrastinate. But let's say there's this person who, let's say all the little things that have to get done that they don't like to do, they just do them. They just tackle task after task after task. And the big things, the projects, the dreams, the visions they have, they don't put those off either. They step-by-step approach those kinds of things. I mean, think about what kind of person it would be who didn't procrastinate. They'd have to have courage to face the hard stuff, to face the difficult things that most of us deny. They'd have to have kind of a wanderlust and kind of they have to be a bit of a dreamer, to go after those things that they want. I think if you take procrastination out of the equation of human behavior, you change human beings into very powerful, accomplishing people who handle the stuff that's in front of them and who have dreams that are out ahead of them and take the steps. This just might be a quote-unquote character trait that brings us all down a great deal from what we're capable of.
Bite-sized pieces, Steve, is the phrase that keeps popping into my mind as I listen to you talk about this. A lot of this is just management skill, organizational skill, prioritizing and chunking it down into a piece that you can handle. That means that those of us who find some benefit or payoff in procrastinating, by pretending that we're so overwhelmed, have to call ourselves on it. We have to recognize that we're the ones that have made this seem overwhelming, that we're not the victim or the target of what is overwhelming us. We, in a sense, made a decision to see it without priorities as all too much.
So overcoming procrastination is really like peeling an onion, because there's really layer after layer. The first layer is, okay, it seems too big, so how do I make it small? I have to peel away the it's too overwhelming thing. So I come up with a bite-sized piece. I come up with a single step. I'm going to write the great American novel. I'm going to get on the computer and I'm going to write like the title, So that's small. It's just writing my name but we still put it off. Now, if we go ahead and do it now because it's no longer overwhelming, that's fine. But a lot of people, they see the baby step they need to take and they still don't take it. And that's another deeper level of procrastination. When it's no longer overwhelming, when the step is obvious right in front of you, you know exactly what you have to do. It's pick up the phone and make that one call, it's send that one letter, it's write that one check. But you don't do that. See, that kind of procrastination, I think, is much deeper rooted, and that's based on some kind of a fear. It's based on some kind of I'm afraid that if I do this, I'm setting myself up. Most likely, I think I'm setting myself up for disappointment. That's the bottom line core of it, I think.
I remember someone asking me not long ago to explain my idea of the difference between fear of success and the fear of failure, as if they were opposites and very far apart. And I said, well, they're like reflections more than opposites. What's the difference? A fear of success can be just as paralyzing because it is a fear that sooner or later I'll fail.
Sure. Fear of success is a fear of failure.
Yeah, sooner or later you're going to.
The fear of I won't succeed with success. I'll take the success and fail. I mean, ultimately, the fear of failure is underlying it all.
Because inherently, this isn't just a behavioral thing. It's a self-image thing.
Right.
It's not what I'm able to do. It's I'm not able to do that because I'm basically an inadequate being.
And I'm not allowed to make mistakes. I'm not allowed to be less than perfect. I'm not allowed to do things wrong. That's really underneath all of it. I was somewhere told along the way that I get punished for mistakes. Now, where would that come from? Oh, I remember failing tests in school and things like that. In real life, as I recall, I mean, I had really pretty good parenting. I had 4 wonderful parents, a mom, a dad, a grandma, and an uncle all in the household. But when I did something wrong the first time, not mean or just I made a mistake, I did something, then I was usually shown the right way to do it. I wasn't punished for doing something wrong when I didn't know the right way to do it. When I knew what I was supposed to be doing and then I did it wrong, then maybe I would get, disciplined. But I felt free to make new mistakes. We did a whole show on the whole idea of making new mistakes. And I think when you are free to make new mistakes, when you're not paralyzed by the idea of doing something wrong or imperfectly, procrastination is a much easier issue to deal with in your life. You're much less inclined toward it.
There's a pre-Renaissance era German philosopher named Eckhart. They called him Meister Eckhart, the master, a Jesuit priest who was preaching at his university that you should never wish that you had not sinned. That's the way in the church they would talk about a mistake, call it a sin. But the fact that he compared the two freaked the church out. And he was found guilty of heresy against the church itself, the Catholic Church at the time. This is before the Reformation, right? For daring to teach such a thing. And it's understandable. There were elements in the church that even today think humor is a bad thing, right? Or logic is a dangerous thing, or science is a bad thing. And Eckhart ran up against that element. But I think what he's saying is, how am I going to learn without messing up sometime? Whether you call it a sin or a mistake, I think the word sin means to miss the mark, ultimately. And that's an important distinction. There is so much Jewish guilt, Catholic guilt, Protestant guilt, and Muslim guilt You know, these these three, if you will, monotheistic religions fill us with shame. And even if we're not in a religious family and not exposed to the church, it permeates the culture, this idea that you should be ashamed of yourself and you should feel guilty. Now let's unconsciously create some reasons to feel shame, because maybe that will motivate me. Maybe if I'm ashamed enough, I'll get this done.
So what we use as a idea to motivate ourselves ends up becoming the thing that paralyzes us. You know, here we are saying, okay, if I feel bad enough, that'll force me to go do it. But the worse I feel, the less inclined I am to do it. It's sort of like Mark Twain said, humans aren't rational creatures, they're rationalizing creatures. But I think underlying people who procrastinate as a regular thing in their lives versus people who do it as an occasional thing. The people who do it regularly, I think it's a self-esteem issue. I think there has something underneath. There's some shame, some guilt, everything we were talking about. The people who do it on a much less frequent occasion, I think it's the thing they're procrastinating that they can learn a lot about. Like, why are they procrastinating that one thing? It's not their pattern to procrastinate. So that thing has some special meaning to them. So if you're not a procrastinator, then great, because you get to explore those few things that you do procrastinate and find out a lot about yourself from those things. And if you are a procrastinator, then you get to see how that satisfies the pattern you have of being frightened to, I still think it comes down to frightened to be disappointed, fearful of dreaming, fearful of getting your hopes up too high, for they will be dashed. And I think that's why we procrastinate. We stop ourselves by putting things off that we like, we want. You know, we don't get started on things we want, and we take the instant gratification that comes from putting off the annoying details and not having to do them right now, you know, because it's at least somewhat gratifying to not have to do something I don't want to do right now.
Yeah, people get real dramatic. You know, I'll be shattered. I would be devastated. And no, you won't. You'll be a little disappointed and bummed out for a day or two, but you'll come to accept it.
The world's most overrated feeling is disappointment, I think. I mean, literally, it's like it paralyzes people. It terrifies people, and it's not that bad of a thing, because the truth is, the more attached you are to the outcome, the more it hurts when you don't get it. So if you can, like, detach, or as we talk about, be mindful, then it's not so bad. But the bottom line is this. The fear is that the not having it's going to hurt a lot forever, and that there's no actual proof that that's the case. I mean, it never happens that way. It's just so terrifying that if I don't get this thing, if I get my hopes up and I don't get this thing I want, that the condition I'll be in after that is going to be way worse than the condition I'm in now. It's not true. It never has been true. And the fact is, it's bad parenting that causes us. Not evil parenting, mind you, not intentional.
It's well-intentioned. Yeah,
well-intentioned, bad parenting who say to their children, don't get your hopes up too high. We wouldn't want you to be disappointed. They want to isolate and insulate them from that.
I believe you'll fail.
Yeah, it really is giving that.
Sooner or later.
Don't want you to fail. Don't want you to mess up. So don't even try. Don't even get your hopes up. And, of course, what you're teaching...
That's the phrase I heard.
Don't bother to try.
Don't get your
hopes up.
And I always felt that was like, don't fly too high because you're going to crash. And if you just fly close to the ground, then when the inevitable crash comes, you won't be too hurt.
But if you ask a pilot, when the plane stops working, do you want to be close to the ground or really far up away from the ground? They're all going to say, I want to be as high as I can, going as fast as I can.
Very good point. You know, I think we can talk about this in another way also. The fear of acceptance.
Yeah.
To accept that things are the way they are and it's just the way it is, right?
I mean, all pain comes from refuting that concept.
From resisting.
Resisting that.
Right. The pain is in the resistance.
Right. If you accept everything that is, then you will not have the emotional pain of trying to want it to be different than it is.
And I think people fear that as an end.
Like, if I say that it's okay that this is, that means it always will be.
It's the end of things.
But it's not. It's just right now.
It could be the beginning of things.
2 seconds later, it can be different.
Right. Yeah. Right now, that's the way it is.
I mean, water at 211 degrees looks good, but you add one more degree and it's bubbling and boiling all over the place.
There's extraordinary power in learning to accept as a springboard from which to catapult yourself forward, and to avoid accepting for fear that it's the end of things is to miss that opportunity, that to spring forward, to get real. On the street we just say keeping it real. Make it. That's acceptance. That's a street philosophy, but not everybody has that. Or even if we could talk it, are we doing it? Are there areas in everyone's lives that we're not accepting? And you'll hear the highly motivated say, well, you darn right, I'm not going to accept mediocrity. I'm going from good to great. Well, yeah, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, again, not accepting as laying down or throwing in the towel or giving up, but accepting as a realization of what's happening right here and now is a place to begin.
And the power always is beginning in the moment, in the now. Procrastination is always overcome right now. You can't put off overcoming procrastination.
Well, it's like you said at the top of the show. Say that again. I thought that was pretty cool.
That if mindfulness is being in the now, then procrastination is being in the not now.
In the not now. So your point of power is now. I remember reading the Seth books by Jane Roberts.
I love those books.
One of my favorites was Seth Speaks, and the biggest hit, as a young man I got from reading that book was the simple sentence, your point of power is now. I even like the alliteration. It sounds like a Dylan lyric or something. Your point of power is now. It's like that Zen thing about here and now. Every place you go, there you are. In the same way, no matter what time it is, it's now. So you're here now, and in a minute you'll be here now, or maybe you'll be there, but that there will be here, and the now is always now. And it's a meaningful riddle to accept that we're sitting on a pinpoint of eternity, That eternity is not this big armload of time, this giant commodity of time, but this tiny little pinpoint that pulses, it has its rhythms and its in-breath and its out-breath, but it never ends. It's just an instant that continues to unfold. That's a very powerful benefit that comes from acceptance.
And you must realize, of course, that in the moment that you are procrastinating, you're not in the now. You're thinking about something you should be doing that you aren't doing, and you're off into the future worrying about something that isn't real, that isn't happening. It's illogical when you can get sick and tired of something that's never happened. So the idea here is to be in the moment means to make the decision in the moment to do the thing that you would have been procrastinating and get it done. Whether it's a thing that you're avoiding doing because of the fact that there's some discomfort associated with it, or it's a thing that you're avoiding doing because there's a fear that something wonderful is associated with it, then if you're a procrastinator, the simple solution is pick something and do something now. If you're a procrastinator on occasion, then take a look at the connection between the kinds of things you procrastinate and learn something about yourself now. Those are the two kinds of procrastinators, it seems to me. The ones that do it because of it's a habit, that's what they do, and the others who do it because of the issues that cause them to feel fear or feel fear of disappointment.
And I think it's important to add that you can learn from the past, from your experience. We just talked a few minutes ago about learning from your mistakes, and of course you learn from your accomplishments and successes as well. And there are times to plan the future and create a strategy once you've set a goal. And we've talked a lot about beginning with the end in mind, having the goal primarily to create the journey, the direction, the strategy to take you to the outcome. It's not really a destination so much as it is a direction. Well, learn from the past, plan the future, but do it from the here and now. You'll know when you're lost in your past, when you're living in the past, or lost in dreading what might happen in the future when your life is filled with a lot of negativity and a lot of dread. Because the truth of the matter is, if you come into the here and the now, you'll find that things aren't so bad, not nearly as bad as you may have been making them.
So take a look at why you procrastinate. Is it because of the sympathy that it gives you? Is it because of the adrenaline that it gives you, putting things off to the last minute and then doing them with that extra rush? Is it because of the fact that things don't seem that important to you until the last minute? Take a look at why it is that you procrastinate, and then peel the onion. Go deeper. Underneath that, where's the fear? What's going on? This is a great place to explore yourself, because procrastination, if eliminated from our lives, means that we take all the risks that are appropriate to take and do the things that need to be done and handle the things that need to be handled, and we just get the stuff done, and we just get as best as possible, our ducks in a row. It's an amazing thing how this one character trait, this one behavior, if you will, procrastination, interrupts for all of us the process of mastery.
I think that's a great point, Steve. It's like looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking for power and control in the wrong place when we procrastinate. This is counterintuitive. It reminds me a little of eating disorders like anorexia. And the best research indicates that not eating, for example, is a form of control. And you say, wow, it looks like out of control. But if the only control you have is not to eat, then you will not eat. And so there's a lot of that in procrastination, too. If, for whatever reason, you feel out of control and you're looking for control, well, you can find this odd, crazy, backward kind of looking glass benefit in I will find control in feeling out of control, in choosing to be overwhelmed. And now I'm in charge. I can fight the establishment and the institutions of men and the injustice of the world by refusing to participate.
Yeah, I'm in control because they can't make me. I'm gonna procrastinate. I'm gonna put this off because they don't have the power over me. And of course, what looks like a powerful thing that you're doing on the outside, inside it takes all your power away. Because inside now you're making a situation that probably, in most cases, the things you procrastinate, if you jumped on them right away, wouldn't be that big a deal. Sometimes they really compound and turn into very big deals, very big bad deals. So why do we procrastinate? Let's take a look at that. First of all, is it a pattern, or is it an occasional occurrence? And I think those are two significant questions to ask yourself. If it's a pattern, then underneath the pattern, where's the fear? If it's an occasional occurrence, what's the connection between those occasions, and what does that tell you about you? That's a place to start. And then once we understand that, then the next step to overcome procrastination is to pick anything you've been procrastinating and do it one baby step right now.
And if you have a voice in your head or a picture in your head that says it probably won't be good enough, why bother? Answer with this question. Good enough for whom? This is a wonderful meditation that everybody can benefit from in a variety of areas in your life. Who are you living your life for? Who set the standard of behavior that you have adopted? Who is it you're trying to please? How much codependency is in all of this? Look, we all want to make other people happy. Most of us, anyway, know the wonderful joy of pleasing other people. But when we need to make other people happy in order to have a sense of power, we're setting ourselves up for a disaster, because not only will that fail, but everybody loses in that scenario. Now, we're making all these promises to manage your emotions if you manage my emotions, and I'll please you if you scratch my back. And be careful. You have to come first in a self-enlightened world to actualize or realize who you are as a charitable, philanthropic member of your community. You still have to put yourself first. We have this crazy assumption, I know where we learn it. It's a false assumption from childhood that any time we put ourselves first, it's going to create selfish behavior. And it's just not true. Obviously, selfish people put themselves first, and then they behave in a selfish way. But the most charitable people have learned to put themselves first so as to have more to give to other people. They maximize their contribution by taking responsibility for how they feel. That's the way we get out of codependency. And that's part of motivating yourself to break out of the phony sense of power and control that goes from procrastination, getting more organized. Again, breaking it down into little bite-sized pieces. Prioritize. I'll say it this way. Categorize and prioritize, breaking your tasks down into little spoon-sized pieces that you can then easily accomplish and harvest that wonderful feeling of accomplishment, that little mini success that stokes your ovens, and now you go on to the next step, and so on and so on and so on.
And if you've broken it down and you still aren't doing it, then you need to take a look at underneath that why. Now, do understand that putting things off, not doing something until things get better, is not procrastinating. You don't have to do everything right now. You can do some things now, and some things are meant to be done later. It's better to do things later. So just because you're not doing something doesn't mean you're procrastinating. It might be that thing is better done later. But those things that you're not doing now that need to be done now, those things you're not doing because they're annoying, you don't like them, those things, and those other things like getting started on the thing that you want the most that you've been putting off, those things, those are the things you need to explore right now. You don't have to explore every area of your life that you're not doing things. Just look at the ones that you need to be doing right now that are annoying, and the one you most want to be doing that somehow you aren't getting started on. And baby steps in either case, in either direction, and creates an enormous amount of power. Because understand the power that procrastination usurps from you, the power that procrastination takes away from you. If you imagine your life without any of it, just take a moment. In fact, we'll do that in the audio journey. Take a moment and imagine, what would life be like if I just jumped on everything that needed to be jumped on and did everything that needed to be done and explored everything that, I mean, what would life be like if you were one of those people that just didn't procrastinate?
I think it's Ben Franklin that gets credit for the aphorism I use in my life, which is, and I don't always succeed, but it's nevertheless a theme. Why put off till tomorrow something that you can easily do today? I think Franklin said it a little more.
He said never put off.
Yeah, it's more, a little more imperative.
Yeah.
Than that.
I like yours better, but
I have the 60s version of that.
200 years of benefit, too.
Yeah, hey, bro, why put it? But I think it's a good technique. It helps you to stay organized. It's much easier to put something off and pretend you've got all this free time, but it is a pretense. Because if you get it done now, the time you have on the back end is going to feel much more free.
Sure, and the power that comes in feeling like whatever I have to tackle in the future, I know I will. I mean, I know my pattern now is to face things and to handle things and to accomplish things. Then, well, just imagine what your life will be. In fact, let's do that. Let's just imagine what your life will be. It's time for an audio journey. We can't procrastinate that any longer. So if you'll take a very slow, deep breath, a very slow, conscious, deep breath. This is... In accomplishing the task of releasing procrastination from your life, it doesn't mean you have to rush. It doesn't mean you have to hurry. It doesn't mean you have to do things quickly. It just means that you have to face the tasks one thing at a time. So to enter the alpha brainwave state, it's just simply one thing at a time, starting with that slow, conscious, deep breath, followed by closing your eyes, if you haven't yet done that, and then imagining yourself in paradise.
A beautiful place, a garden, an Eden, or it might be your favorite chair. Maybe you can remember a time in your life when you just felt really, really safe. Go there and allow yourself to feel so safe and so relaxed, as if you can right now feel every muscle in your body from head to toe unwinding, going limp, stress and tension just falling away. Funny thing about muscular tension, stress, and anxiety, you cannot overcome it, for it is born of the attempt to control and overcome. So tell yourself, I am in control of the letting go. Yeah, there's control in just dropping it, you see. Not an effort, but an allowing yourself to feel so safe and so relaxed that your ability to focus your passions is greatly enhanced.
And you can live here now. I'd like you to imagine in an exercise that we call mirror of the mind that you are what you choose to become. You are living a life in some close but future time, a time that hasn't yet begun, where you have changed in one quite significant way. And that is, you no longer procrastinate. You face things when they need to be faced. You handle things when they need to be done. The things that need to get started, those things you've begun. Imagine jumping on things right from the start. No putting things aside. No pushing things apart. Just see what you need to do and take that step. And do it with vigor. Do it with pep. Do it with feeling like this is what I do. I get things done. Imagine that's you. I get things done. I handle my fear. I face what's in front of me. I face what's here, and I do it. Step by step I take. And it's okay if I make a mistake. I just face it, handle it. I get it done. If it needs to get started, I've already begun. Imagine that's you. Imagine it's what you do. Imagine that image is really true. And try it on for size. And realize how wonderful life will be when procrastination becomes a memory.
Affirm to yourself, I do have the time. And if you're not sure, then ask yourself, is the benefit that I seem to find in pretending I do not have the time really worth it? See, you do have the time. And so imagine how it looks to be that organized, that motivated, that you have free time with a sense of accomplishment in every day. How does that look? How does it sound? How would your life sound? What music would play as the soundtrack to feeling caught up and worthy and really in control in the most graceful way? How would that sound? And then move your awareness down into your body and ask yourself now, and how does it feel to imagine having accomplished successfully just this one little thing, and then maybe one other little thing today. Maybe I got 2 little things done today. How much simple joy. can I experience effervescing up from within my sense of accomplishment if I just slow down, categorize and prioritize and organize in simple ways, bite-sized pieces, one step at a time.
So think of some things that you really don't want to do and get that picture in your head. And now imagine getting them done and put that picture in there instead. It's a simple choice. Just listen to that inner voice. It'll tell you, get the thing done. It's better in the now, and it's also better in the long run. And those things that you dream of, those things that you hope, those things that you really aspire to create, those things that are wonderful, those things that are magnificent, those things that you imagine are great, that you haven't gotten started on, those things that you procrastinate, well, one baby step is all it takes, and if you know what step to do, and you're still not taking that baby step, then there's something you need to look into, and that is the fear of disappointment, or the perfectionism, or the low self-esteem. There's something going on here. And you'll find out what it means by simply asking yourself, why do I wait? Why do I hesitate? Why do I procrastinate? Why do I put this off? Why don't I get going? Ask the question, sit receptive, and the answers come flowing.
Say to yourself silently and internally, this is easy to do. And you don't even need to say it out loud. Again, silently, internally, feel the feeling that goes with saying in your mind, easy. It's easy to take one step forward. It's really easy to do this one little thing today. If I accomplished nothing else, if I just did this one thing today, I could allow myself to genuinely experience a sense of accomplishment. If I got just two little things done today and moved forward, gosh, I could get a lot of really nice feeling out of that would help me create a kind of inertia, psychological momentum, like pushing a car. It's pushing a stalled car is only hard for the first couple of steps, and then it gets easier and easier and easier.
So whatever it is that you really do want to do, imagine some baby step, and imagine yourself doing that in your mind over and over, and find the passion, the feeling like, wow, this is great. Imagine in your mind something you already did create, and then open your eyes and take the step. That's all you have to do. One step can break this whole pattern. One step can get you through. But if procrastination is a pattern, it's a habit in your life, it's something that's causing some problems, it's causing some hang-ups, some strife, well then take a look at what you deserve, because it's better than what you've got. Because putting things off doesn't make things better. I promise you it does not. So if procrastination is a habit, ask yourself why. And if procrastination is an occasional experience, look yourself in the eye and say, why do I procrastinate that particular thing? Where's the fear that this creates? In either case, procrastination can open some wonderful gates into understanding who you are, to knowing your higher self. Because what's really important to you, the things you really want to do, those things, and yet you put them on the shelf, that tells you a lot about who you are. And you can learn from this experience inside. So, if you procrastinate, it's great. You can learn a lot. and you can emerge from the feeling with pride.
In a moment, I'll ask you to open your eyes, wide awake and alert, feeling really rested and refreshed and revitalized, as if coming home from a really wonderful vacation. With a clarity of mind, a sense of purpose and meaning that just feels like you can get things done when they're important. You can categorize and prioritize, and I can do that. And even on my worst days, just do one or two little things to enjoy that feeling of accomplishment. This is a feeling you can bring with you now. Hold it gently in the palm of your hand as you reorient yourself to the sound of our voices and remind yourself what you'll see in the room in which you sit as you open your eyes now, wide awake and alert, rested and refreshed, feeling that sense of accomplishment.
And moving from that place of narrow awake back to this land of wide awake, but something different, something that you can take from this experience, and that is an opportunity to explore yourself as a procrastinator on occasion or as a procrastinator as a habit. Take a look at what you do and how you do what you do. It's something that you don't want to put off. It's something that you want to jump on right away. I said at the beginning, there's really no word for a person who isn't a procrastinator. So how about jump on a nator or something? Somebody who jumps right on it. Become a jump on it nator.
Accomplishmentator.
Accomplishmentator. There you go. So whatever it is that is stopping you from doing the things that you really want to do, that's one issue. Or if you're one of those people that put things off because you're looking for some delayed gratification, the instant gratification you get from doing it now feels a whole lot better.
Here's something I'd love for you to do now, and make a habit of feeling a sense of accomplishment every time you forward one of these personal empowerment audio programs to a friend. You can do that an unlimited number of times for no additional charge whatsoever. Your 99-cent a week contribution to FocusedPassion.com covers all of that. That's really a big part of what this is about. Like a relay race, share what you care about. A lot of folks are looking for this information. Consider right now who would love this program on procrastination, and use the little gadget or widget at FocusedPassion.com. It's right below the built-in audio player to send one to a friend. They'll appreciate it, and we will too.
And if you've been procrastinating giving that family learning hour to those friends you have with kids at school, now's the time. There's no better time. It's a great program, reading, study, memory, test taking. Remember, kids don't fail in school because they can't learn. It's because they don't know how.
As always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.